Hey everybody, it's GombletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'll be playing a sealed event of Streets of New Capenna. Without further ado, let's bust open these packs and see if we can't open up a sick sealed pool today. Well, we've got multiple incredibly impressive green rares if we have the green support to go with them. Vivian on the Hunt potentially giving us a 4/4 Rhino every single turn, as well as being a potential card draw engine or tutor. Workshop Warchief is always a phenomenal deal, always at least a 2-for-1, because you're getting a 5/3 down, and when that 5/3 dies, you're also getting a 4/4 out of it. If you blitz it, you're drawing a card in the process. Super good card. Rigo Streetwise Mentor is a lot of fun if you have any fish tokens or even citizen tokens, because whenever you attack a player or planeswalker with a creature with power 1 or less, you get to draw a card, so Rigo is potentially pretty solid as well. Then we have the weaker cards, Horde Hauler being kind of a bad rate for a vehicle, in my opinion. 4 mana and crew 3 to get a 5/5 trample sending in. You're probably not getting treasure tokens out of this very often at all in limited, so not a huge fan of Horde Hauler. Even the Score is also a pretty expensive draw spell, but sealed in this format tends to be a lot slower than draft. In draft, you're pretty much tied into 2 colors, maybe splashing a third to stay as quick and as aggressive as some of the other decks in the format can be. In sealed, you definitely have some more time to just set up more bomby plays, so even the Score could actually be playable in sealed, even though it's so slow, but I would pretty much never run this in draft. And then there's Rafine's Tower, which is a nice blue-black-white triome. Looking at our entire sealed pool now, I'm going to start with the colorless cards, the lands, and the multicolored cards to see what particular families or 2-color pairs have the most support. So in colorless, we have a couple Paragon of Modernity, Chrome Cat, Halo Scarab, Cement Shoes. None of those particularly stand out as something super powerful. Definitely some pretty filler cards just if we need them. In Brokers, we have 2 Brokers hideouts, the fetch land for green, white, and blue, so that is pretty great because we do have a sweet green, white, blue rare, the Rigo Streetwise Mentor. We also have Spara's Adjudicators, which is the mana-fixing creature in green, white, blue, so that'll be helpful as well. And our third Brokers card is also quite powerful, Lagrella the Magpie. This card has a very confusing text box. The easiest way to think about this is it's a 3-mana 2/3. When it enters the battlefield, you can exile up to 1 creature per player until she leaves the battlefield. And then when she leaves the battlefield, all the exiled creatures will come back. If one of the exiled creatures was your creature, that creature will come back with 2+1/+1 counters on it. So it is a really, really long way to state how it works, but I feel like that's a much more clear way of saying how it works than exile any number of other target creatures controlled by different players. That's a really weird wording on it, but Magic gets really weird and specific on wordings like that. Anyways, super strong card. Usually you're going to play here and just exile one of your opponent's creatures until she dies. Looks like in Riveteers we just have triple masked bandits. I mean, not bad at all in sealed. A bit slow for draft, but 5/5 Vigilance Menace is a beat stick, so in sealed, not unhappy to have that, but if that's our only Riveteers gold card, probably not a huge reason to be in there. In Maestros, we have the Maestro's mana-fixing creature, the Glamorous Outlaw, and Corpse Appraiser, which is a nice card draw creature. For Obscura, we have only Rafine's Tower, so that's not super exciting, but it is a great mana-fixing land we could even run in just a blue-white deck, so if we go blue-white-green, we'll run it. Red-black, now on to the 2-color cards here. Red-black has 1 Forge Boss, which is probably not enough to build a sacrifice deck around, and 1 Tramway Station. Blue-black has a couple Tainted Indulgence and Stooping Newsy, nothing super special there. A couple Celestial Regulators in blue-white are pretty great, though. Probably another card that's better in draft than sealed because you can really build your deck around it. Make sure you always have counters on your board to get the tap effect out of this, but still going to be a super solid card here. And we have a blue-white duel, so it's looking like Brokers looks pretty possible here. We have powerful green rares, we have a solid Brokers rare and a powerful Brokers uncommon as well, and some mana fixing, a couple Brokers hideout, Skybridge Towers, and Rafine's Tower to help play blue, white, and green. So we're going to start looking at those individual colors, and if we've got enough individual support in those colors, it's probably the way to go. So I guess we'll start with white. We'll do it in Wooburg order. White is looking like it's probably going to be our support color, maybe maining blue and green, because nothing super exciting in white. I do like backup agent with those blue-white flyers, because this will get a counter onto a creature. Boon of Safety is a nice combat trick as well, because we can use it as a combat trick to save a creature and then scry one, or we can use this just to get a counter on our board for our stuff that cares about counters. Hold for Ransom is okay temporary removal. Very good if you're aggressive, but if you're not that aggressive, which in sealed you usually aren't mega aggressive, then your opponent can get out of this eventually. But when they do, you still draw a card, so I'm still fine running it. Just not massively excited about it. Rafine's Informant is a great deal. 2-mana creature, you get to connive when it hits the board. Actually, white's pretty solid here. We just don't have any like big bombs in white. We have a good core to a deck. We've got some decent 2-drop creatures, some decent little pseudo removal, like temporary removal, and a little trick kind of creature with Swooping Protector. Definitely a lot of options in white, just nothing massively powerful. When we move on to blue, it's pretty similar, but blue's pretty dry. We only have 7 total blue cards, and none of them are super great. I do like Disdainful Stroke a lot in sealed, because you are going to be playing bigger, just high mana cost bombs, so I like Disdainful Stroke there. Broker's Veteran solid. Rooftop Nuisance is great, and it's a phenomenal way to use the Broker's Veteran or the Expendable Lackey. We'd run both of those. Then maybe if we're really slow, we'll run Even the Score, but I don't think we'll need to, because if we are playing green, we'll have a bunch of green bombs that are just cheaper and end the game quicker. If we're really low on removal, we can play Witness Protection to try to deal with our opponent's biggest plays, but not something I tend to just start in the main deck, because it's very bad against like 3/3s or smaller. Alright, so blue's actually really empty. White isn't that great. And then green, luckily for us, our green looks like kind of a banger. So I think green is the only thing that's definitely happening here. 2 Civic Gardeners and a Venom Connoisseur, that's 3 2-drops. They're pretty filler. None of these are massively powerful, but they're 3 2-mana 2/2s, so that's super fine, gets the game started. We have Voice of the Vermin, which is a fun 4-drop, comes with a shield counter, makes something a 4/4 every time it attacks. Kaldia's Strongarm is a great blitz spell, getting a couple counters on one of your cards and then drawing a card when this dies. Or if you just need a 5-mana 4/5 to block with, you can cast it that way as well. The War Chief and Vivian, we've already explained those. They're both absolutely phenomenal cards and definitely going in the deck. And then last but certainly not least, we have Cleanup Crew, which is really flexible main deck cards. This is great in best of 1 formats like Arena Sealed and Arena Draft, where they are best of 1, so we have no sideboards. This just makes us have main deckable artifact enchantment removal, main deckable graveyard hate, and if we don't need any of those flexible abilities, it's a 6-mana 6/6 that gains 4 life, which is still a great deal. Cleanup Crew is fantastic. So we're definitely in green here. These are all the cards we're definitely playing. If we need more cards, like if we need more removal, we can definitely play a Prize Fight here, and we can absolutely play For the Family as a combat trick. And if we really need more creatures, we could throw a Social Climber in here. But these are the cards I'm going to start in the main deck. I think these are definitely going in no matter what. Then let's take a peek at our black and red here. I'm pretty sure I'm still going to go green, white, blue just to have access to our strongest gold cards. Our Adjudicators, Rigo, Lagrella, and the 2 Celestial Regulators. But just in case, let's make sure our black and red aren't like massively good. Cutthroat Contender only good in aggro. Grizzly Sigil only good if you have a lot of cards to sacrifice. Corrupt Court Official is one of the best cards to sacrifice to casualties, so that's pretty exciting with the Grizzly Sigil. But other than that, looks like just some more little aggro creatures like Crooked Custodian. Fake Your Own Death's a decent trick. Incriminate is not great. Midnight Assassin's not great. Couple Deal Gone Bad, kind of mediocre removal for black. Murder is what you really want, but it's playable. And then Revel Ruin, Demon's Due. No huge reason to be in black, but black is definitely, consistent. It's got some decent stuff. Decent removal, decent little sacrifice fodder. Not a ton going on in there. Looks like red is pretty similar. The most exciting thing that we have in red is probably Pugnacious Pugilist, which is, quite a card. Really good with that blitz effect. Those devil tokens are always useful. And we do have 2 burn spells in red. Torch Breath to deal X damage to a creature or planeswalker, and Call in a Professional to do 3 damage to any target. We also have a little more filler, Light 'em Up, not as good of removal, since it doesn't kill as many things as 3 damage or X damage can kill, but it's still a fine card, and if we really need to kill a 4 toughness card, we can sacrifice a 2 toughness or 2 power or higher creature to copy that. So red looks okay, because we have Pugilist, we have Torch Breath, Call in a Professional, and a couple light 'em ups if we need them, but then red completely dries up after that. Red gives us 1 more creature, and then like a really filler one like Roast Master. I'm not very high on Gold Hound, just the 1 mana, 1 is so low impact later in the game, even if you do convert it into a treasure token. Yeah, that's kind of it for red. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. Definitely couldn't just be green-red, but I guess we could theoretically go like Riveteers if we really want, but our black doesn't support it too well. We don't have any mana fixing for green, red, white. I guess we have a couple. These would be green-white dual lands. But as far as the mana fixing we'd have for green, red, black, we'd have 1 tramway station, and that's it. So our mana fixing really does not want us to go green-red here. Yeah, we have no mana fixing for green-red. We would only have mana fixing with the 3rd color, so green-red-black, we'd get some red-black mana fixing, or green-red-white, we'd get some green-white mana fixing. Yeah, red is solid, but the mana fixing's really not there. Alright, just wanted to make sure we checked all of our colors before I hop completely onto the broker's train, but pretty sure that's where things are going now. So let's throw in the best brokers cards. First and foremost, these powerful multicolored cards are definitely all going in here. Rigo's actually not going to be that great, but Rigo might be able to draw removal. We are not going to have a lot of 1-power creatures in this deck to really synergize with Rigo. Theoretically, though, we've got something pretty cute we could do. Rigo allows you to draw a card whenever you attack a player or planeswalker with 1 or more creatures with power 1 or less. So if you're attacking with a creature that has less than 1 power, you'll also draw a card. So Rigo does synergize with Broker's Initiate here. So we can just play a 1-mana 0/4 to block things in the early game, and if we happen to get Rigo down, we can attack with a 0/4 that will very likely not die in the combat just to draw a card with a Rigo. So that's a pretty cute little synergy, and Broker's Initiate isn't the worst card in the world once you get that mana. To turn to a 5/5 later, it's pretty solid, and it does hold things off for the early game, so we might try running the Broker's Initiate. We will definitely run Backup Agent. I think this card is pretty phenomenal in this deck because it's going to synergize with Rigo as well as our Celestial Regulators. This gets a counter onto one of our cards for our Regulators, and it gives us a 1-power creature for Rigo. We'll probably play Illuminator Virtuoso to synergize with Rigo, although we don't have much that can target it. We might want to play that green combat trick now to work with the Illuminator Virtuoso. If nothing else, we'll definitely play Rafine's Informants. Maybe we focus in on green-white and splash the blue. Ooh, Skycrier is really good with Rigo, because this is actually just a decent rate 2-mana 1/1 flying lifelinker. That's super fine. Really don't like Rumor Gatherer unless you have a ton of ways, a ton of creatures like the 5-mana creature that's a 5/3 that comes with a 1/1. Unless you have a bunch of cards in your deck that are 2 creatures off of 1 card, I wouldn't really play Rumor Gatherer, so not a big fan of it here because we don't have any of that kind of stuff. Celebrity Fencer also is very, very slow. Potentially becomes really large throughout the game, but it's super, super slow. I think I'll just take a Swooping Protector here. Works with our stuff that cares about counters like Celestial Regulator. It's a decent little combat trick by itself as well. See how many cards we've got right now. How many creatures and everything. Oh, this is pretty much all creatures. That's interesting to know. 19 creatures. That's the problem. We need to put some non-creatures in this deck. Is that what our blue is going to do for us? Do we just splash in Disdainful Stroke, Rooftop Nuisance here? Or do we want to splash just the blue-gold cards? Disdainful Stroke and Rooftop Nuisance are probably our strongest non-creature cards in this whole sealed pool, pretty much, so we should probably play them. And if we're going to play Rooftop Nuisance, I kind of want to play Lackey, so then we have to go the full-on blue-white-green. I don't love that for our mana, because we don't have a million mana-fixing cards, but it might be worth it. If we don't go with the big blue splash, and just go for the little blue splash for the gold cards, then our non-creature cards are going to be a couple Hold for Ransoms. What do we have in green? We'll probably have to play that prize fight that we have. This does not seem great in our deck, though. You really need the creatures that are big enough to win at a fight, and we don't really have that. Most of our creatures are just like 2/2s, a ton of 1/1s, 2/2s, and 2/3s, a 2/1 here. We have very little when it comes to our number of creatures that can actually win a fight, so I don't really like prize fight in this deck, enough to where I think I'm not even going to put it in, even though we need more non-creatures. I think I'd rather just play For the Family, because this card is going to help our smaller creatures get big enough to win a fight. Just in combat, we just have to hope our opponent blocks with whatever creatures we need to kill. So we'll go For the Family over Prize Fight there. Don't think we're playing any of the other green cards, so if we go back to white, maybe more combat tricks here, like Refuse to Yield is a decent one. Untap a creature, give it +2/+7 until end of turn. That's going to kill anything that's attacking you out of nowhere. And it can help on the attack as well. So we could play Refuse to Yield. We could also play that Boon of Safety. I like that you get to cycle this card even outside of combat, because whenever you cast this, that shield counter is just going to stick around if you cast this randomly. So this is like a somewhat of a combat trick that you don't actually have to play in combat. That's what I really like of Boon of Safety. It's definitely more flexible than any other combat trick we put in, because we can always, outside of combat, if nobody's attacking anybody, we can still just use this to scry and get some extra value from the shield counter as well. So, Boon of Safety, Refuse to Yield. Refuse to Yield is more powerful if it's used at the right time, but Boon of Safety can be cycled at any time. These are the two things we have to consider. Boon of Safety does give us another thing that puts a counter on one of our cards, but the only card that we care about that cares about having counters on the board is Celestial Regulator, and it's still okay if we don't have something with a counter down, so I guess I'll go for the Refuse to Yield over the Celestial Regulator. It seems like the bigger combat trick. Revelation of Power is also a really good trick. If you have like a really big creature that comes with counters on it, then this is really good. So if you have the 6 mana 6/3 Rhino that comes with a shield counter, this card's phenomenal. But in this deck, most of our creatures with the counters are going to be pretty small and probably already have flying. So I don't love it here compared to Refuse to Yield. So I think I'm going to stick to Refuse to Yield for that combat trick. So yeah, I think I like green-white with the blue splash. Let's put in some non-basics here. And then where did our Triome go? There it is, Rafine's Tower for blue-white fixing. And then take one more look at the deck. We are going to cut one creature here to fit another non-creature card in. Yeah, we've got 19 creatures. We can definitely cut more creatures than one here to put more non-creature stuff in. Do have kind of a lot at 1 and 2 mana. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That is a ton. I feel like if you want to consistently cast something on turn 1 or turn 2 to get the game started, get the ball rolling, you want around 5, because 5 cards at 2 or less mana, that would be 1 out of every 8 cards in your deck. So you obviously draw a card when you move to turn 2, so then on average you'll have seen 8 cards, 1 out of 8 on average you'll have drawn something that costs 2 or less. So 5 is like the baseline to just kind of get the ball rolling. 9 is a bit much, but not that much, because the other advantage of having a lot of 2 mana cards is, sure, you get to roll out one of them on turn 2 to get the game started, but then you can also later in the game, like turn 4, you could just play 2 2-mana cards to make the most of your mana if you don't draw a 4-mana card. So it's kind of okay that we have a million of them, but I think 8 should be fine. So I'm going to cut one of the 2 or 1-mana cards over anything bigger, especially since we are sealed here, which tends to be slower. Honestly, out of all of these cards, I think I just want to cut one of these Broker's Initiates, even though there's such a decent synergy with our Rego. I think it's okay if Rego doesn't absolutely pop off, because they're not very good in any other fashion, in any other synergy here. They're really just for Rego in this deck. So we can definitely consider cutting another creature here, maybe cut another Broker's Initiate to get another non-creature card in the deck. If we want to do that, what do we have left we can put in? We could put in that Revelation of Power, see how they play, put in that Boon of Safety. I actually think Boon of Safety should be pretty sweet in here with our just a million 2-mana creatures. Our creatures are going to be jamming into combat all day long. We're often going to be just offering trades, and this makes it so we don't trade and we get to scry one, and it's cheap enough that it'll be easy to play a creature on turn 2, and then on turn 3, we get to attack in with our 2-mana creature, put a shield counter on it, scry one, and just cast another 2-mana creature. So I think this fits into our curve really nicely as a combat trick because it's so cheap. So I think I'm going to put in one Boon of Safety, cut the second Broker's Initiate there and just not run those at all. And then this might be how we want to run the deck here. I think this is the deck I'm feeling. So now let's just make sure our mana is all good. So I'm going to sort these cards by color. Okay, so the cards on the left are all white cards, the cards on the right are all green cards, and the cards in the center are both green and white. We're just going to count blue separately. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 white cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 green cards. So a little bit more white than green, but not a lot. We do have 3 cards that are both green and white, so probably pretty even numbers of green and white, and a bit of blue. We do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blue cards, but technically we only have 1, 2, 3, 4 cards that require blue. And one of those cards, the Adjudicators, is a mana fixer, so it mana fixes for the blue itself. So we really only have 1, 2, 3 cards that need a separate source of blue mana. With Rego, we can cast this for just double white and green or triple white. And with Spar's Adjudicators, again, they'll mana fix for the blue mana they need. So we have 3 total cards that need a blue source. So I think we're probably going to go with Arena's suggestion there on just 1 island. So we know our Broker's Hideouts can pull out that island, because that'll be sort of like having 5 blue sources. 2 hideouts can pull out a blue source. Rafine's Tower and Skybridge Towers are blue sources, and the island itself is a blue source. So I'm cool with the blue mana. And then we just want to make sure we have even numbers of white and green and call it a day. So we currently have 5, 6, 7 white sources, and then 7 green sources. So 7 white, 7 green, 2 that are both these Broker's Hideouts here. I think Arena did a pretty great job on the auto-suggested lands today, so this will be the deck we're running. Let's see how it performs as we head into the gameplay. All right, here we are in round 1. Our opponent this round is my spirit animal. I love the username. I feel that. Definitely feel that every time I play. So we've got a pretty great hand here, and we're definitely going to keep. Let's start with Civic Gardener. This will open us up to casting 2 2-mana cards next turn if we draw into another 2-drop creature. As we've seen in deck building, we do have a million of those, so it's possible that Civic Gardener lets us just curve out here with a ton of creatures really quickly. Try to overwhelm our opponent while they're still setting up tapped lands. Unfortunately, we did not draw another 2-mana creature, but we can still just play Venom Connoisseur and have the Gardener untap itself rather than one of our lands. Here's the Venom Connoisseur, and we will pass the turn. Definitely hoping for that blue source this game. That's the biggest risk we kept in this hand. We have 2 of our 3 blue cards in the hand, which is a bit troublesome. I think I'd rather hold for ransom this Sawjack than just use our combat trick here, because our combat trick can be used to permanently kill something later. I don't think we need to permanently kill the Sawjack, because if we just hold it for ransom, we get rid of it for the entirety of the game where it's the most useful. A 2/3 body is going to be the most useful, like turn 3 to turn 7. Once they have the mana to sack the hold for ransom and make us draw a card, their 2/3 body's not going to be that relevant. whereas something like a 3/1 Menace definitely would be. So if we can use For the Family to beat the Revel Ruiner without losing a creature, we'll absolutely go for that. If they discard a non-land card here off of the Connive trigger, though, it will be a 4/2, and For the Family will not work, but looks like it is a 3/1, so For the Family would absolutely work if they go for a block, which they might just not block here. They are going to go for a block, so we'll take the trade for our combat trick rather than for our creature, and put them down to 13. We are going to start stumbling really quickly here if we don't hit that blue source, because then we'll basically have started this game down 2 cards. So if we don't hit a blue source or a non-land card here, we are completely out of action, and that could be a problem very quickly. Venom Connoisseur is not that likely to be a super important trigger. I guess once they play a big blocker, it'll be able to keep attacking in every time I play a creature, but Civic Gardener, if we hit the blue source, we get to cast Celestial Regulator and Lagrella in the same turn, since Civic Gardener would be able to untap our blue source. This might be greedy, but I'm keeping Civic Gardener here. See if it's a misplay. Okay, they've got Strangle, so both are going to die either way. Decided to keep Civic Gardener because this, once we hit a blue source, would let us cast both of these in one turn, or alternatively, because multiple of the blue sources in this deck come into play tapped, it would make sure if we top deck a blue source, we get to immediately cast something this turn. So like I could have played this Rafine's Tower, attacked in with Gardener, untapped Rafine's Tower, and played a blue spell here. Fortunately though, I'm going to have to just discard a non-land card. I probably discard Regulator since Lagrella can kill whatever they decide to play next turn, so we can keep getting in with Informant. We definitely don't discard the blue source. Yeah, I think we have to discard the Flyer here. Hold on to Lagrella to get rid of whatever they cast this turn, so we can just keep jamming in for 3. This plays better if they have a big threat. Alright, either one that we discarded there, they make us discard the rest, or whatever's left over. Backup Agent, do we want to make a 4/3 or make this a 2/2? Let's make this a 4/3. There are a lot of 4/4 bodies and stuff in this format that having a 3/2 and a 2/2 on the board will not be good against. It is putting all our eggs into one basket, so this will play worse if they go for a murder. They're going to go for Riveteer's Charm before it resolves, because if they wait for it to resolve, then when they cast Riveteer's Charm, I get to choose to sacrifice Backup Agent instead. So fair enough. Alright, they're down to 1 card in hand, but they have the biggest creature on board by far, the Freelance Muscle. And we draw into another land here, which is not ideal. Alright, opponent is definitely back in it. They are in the lead by a lot. Having a Freelance Muscle and a Wrecking Crew on board means that will attack as a 9/9. Unfortunate. Looks like this game is in the bag here. We have to chump block a 9/9 and take 4. Take 6 if they sacrifice the Hold for Ransom on High Rise Sawjack. But we just stumbled on our blue mana far too long. We did get into the aggressive position, but we got into the aggressive position with 2 2/2s on the board, so we didn't manage to pressure them enough to deal enough damage to kill them before all this started happening. So yeah, we're very dead. We can play Voice of the Vermin to chump block Muscle and take 8 over here, even if they don't sack Hold for Ransom, and if they do, we take 10. So that is game 1 in the bag. Round 2 now. Our mana is perfect this hand, so I'm very happy for this keep. Skybridge Towers into Broker's Hideout. We might want to Broker's Hideout first, so we can immediately grab the green source and have the option of casting Venom Connoisseur on turn 2. I might do that. Yeah, I think I will. We also thin 1 land out of the deck, so make it slightly less likely that we top deck a 5th land here. Hold for ransom is the draw. Would I rather slam down a 2-mana 2/2 or make sure I can play Regulator on 3? I think I just slam down the 2-mana 2/2. I don't think the 2/3 flyer is that impressive when their board state is empty anyway, to where a 2/2 on the ground can just hit them this turn. And this way we get to wait until we have a counter on one of our cards to cast the Regulator, so we can get the value out of the tap effect from it as well. We can use our Boon of Safety to make sure we've got a shield counter on something. Or I might have to just use Boon of Safety to kill Maestro's Initiate, because I don't think I want to use our +2/+7 trick to do that. Nor do I really want to hold for ransom. I suppose since we drew an island, we could just slam down Regulator and just get attacking. You know, I'm actually down for that. Let's just not worry about any tricks here and just hit them. And then next turn we just have the mana up for any of these tricks that we need. Call in a professional to kill our flyer here. They'll go ahead and hit us for 3 with Maestro's Initiate. So they're winning the race. Their creature has more power. And we are not seeing the cards we're looking for, unfortunately. I think we'll just hold for ransom here. Would I rather hold for ransom or trade off the combat trick? Again, I think I'd rather hold for ransom their cheap creatures and try to use the combat tricks to permanently kill their better creatures. Hold for ransom is unfortunately pretty weak in this matchup. It's not good against Maestros because Maestros have ways to sacrifice their creatures for good use. Corpse Appraiser is a phenomenal card, a 3-mana 3/3 that draws the best card out of their top 3 when they cast it. Definitely cast my fair share of Corpse Appraisers and firmly enjoyed it every time. Alright, opponent did mill their Wrath effect Corpse Explosion, because all we have out is a 2/2, so why would they need a Wrath? But it is still nice to see that engrave, so we don't have to worry about that for now. Unfortunately, that's our 7th land. We really need gas, and we are just not finding it. Very similar to last game. Just scry one here. I probably have to just sacrifice Skybridge Towers. We can do that in the end step. Is it worth it to kill a 3/3 here? Not really. Because of how badly we need to draw some kind of gas. I'm just going to make sure I have the mana for Skybridge Towers. And we'll save the combat tricks in case we really need to block well. I don't want to really attack into Corpse Appraiser just to try to use a combat trick on it, because then I won't have the mana left over to sacrifice the land to draw a card. We need to hit something to put on board. Maybe I should have stuck with the 19 creature version of this deck based on how these first 2 games are going. Because we're just having hands full of tricks. Not many plays. Alright, we can take 3. We do not need to spend a combat trick to kill that. So we'll take 3 and then sacrifice our Skybridge Towers. Alright, see what we draw. Sky Crier. That's pretty small for this point in the game, but it's still alright. And the 8th land. Alright, so we'll play the Sky Crier here, and we'll still have the mana up for one combat trick, I guess. We do get to send in the Venom Connoisseur this time. Alright, they're exiling a Masked Bandits onto one of their lands so they can cast a 5/5 Vigilance Menace later. Light them up, sacrificing their health for ransom creature to kill both of ours. I don't have double white up, so I can't save both of our creatures. Guess that'd have been a reason to play an island or a plains instead of a forest there. Which would I rather save? I guess I'd rather use the Scry to save it. So that I can scry one here, because we really need to not hit a land. And I guess I'll save the lifelinker. We get a Regulator. Regulator's not even very good here, so I'm just going to dump it on the bottom. The 2/3 flyer is just not going to help deal with a 3/3 or any of the kind of cards they're about to play. They're going to play a 5/3 and a 5/5 Vigilance Menace and a Mythic Rare Rafine, Scheming Seer. So every time they attack, the attacking creature gets to connive X times, where X is the number of attacking creatures. I don't think we can get out of this one. Swooping Protector is something with Refuse to Yield. That is a 4 power block. 4 power block is enough to kill Rafine, but they still just have more threats coming. The Revelers and the Bandits. Big stuff coming. Alright, Rafine is triggering with Corpse Appraiser again. They're playing it very safe with Rafine and not attacking with her here, which is unfortunate for us because we would really prefer they did attack with her. Play a Swooping Protector. I guess there was no reason to play that because we can just block with a Sky Crier here to kill Corpse Appraiser. Gain 3. But we're still going to play Protector in the main phase this turn, so not that big of a deal, not that big of a misplay. Masked Bandits is coming down, and we are just out of gas. So let's have each player draw a card. It's another land, so we'll just play our Civic Gardener. Pass turn, we can't get through a 1/4 flyer. Massive attack from Masked Bandits here because of that menace. I'm just going to scoop them up here. Our game has no way to get out of this, and our opponent's playing really slowly, so it's going to be another long time. Here we are in round 3. This is not a great hand mana-wise whatsoever, but it has Rigo and Vivian, some of our biggest bombs. We need to hit white and blue sources. How many just green sources do we have left in the deck? We only have 5 cards left in the deck that are only a green source. Every other land we hit would be a non-green one. How many other lands in the deck? 10 non-green lands left in the deck out of 33 cards. A little under a 1 in 3 chance every draw step, but we're on the play. We need double white or white and blue to cast Rigo. I don't think we can afford that one as powerful as the cards in hand are. Can definitely keep this one. I think maybe we get rid of Hold for Ransom here. But maybe we get rid of a Civic Gardener. I don't think we get rid of a land. I think we just go blue, white, green with these. Yeah, we'll get rid of a Civic Gardener here. Grab that blue source. Get ready for a turn 3 Rigo with no 1 power or less creatures. Riveteer's Overlook from our opponent. For the Family is drawn. So here's our Civic Gardener. Goldhound is the first play from our opponent. There's a creature that would trigger off of Rigo. So we could put that on the board so that when we cast Rigo, we have a 1 power creature on board to attack with. So I think I want to do that. Attack with the Civic Gardener. Could untap a land to Hold for Ransom the Goldhound. That doesn't seem worth it, though. It would let our backup agent attack in really freely. But next turn, we get to cast Rigo, attack with Civic Gardener, and backup agent to draw a card out of Rigo, and untap the Forest with Civic Gardener to hold up for the Family if they block with Goldhound. Looks like they're just going to cast a Quasar, which is not a biggie. We can kill that with a For the Family pretty easily. Or we can hold it for ransom. So let's go Rigo here. We can't afford a Hold for Ransom, unfortunately. So they are probably killing our backup agent, but maybe they'll try to block Civic Gardener. Alright, they do not try to block Civic Gardener. Ooh, they do. So For the Family is going to be beautiful here. Eat up that Quasar. And drop our land past turn. Witty Roastmaster from our opponents. There's Lagrella. Alright, I'm going to hold on to this land. So if they have any Corrupt Court officials in their hand, they do not get to make us discard an important card. Alright, if I draw any more creatures, I'm going to stop playing cards here so that I can play around a Wrath effect. There's a 5 mana Wrath in Maestro's. Hostile Takeover does 3 damage to all creatures. Luckily our Rigo survives any Wrath because of its shield counter. But everything else would be very dead. Maestro's Charm, gonna kill our 3/3. They have 2 mana left over now. Make us sacrifice Rigo or Lagrella. So we'll sacrifice Lagrella, they get back their Roastmaster, and we'll hold it for ransom. Or just Boon of Safety. Can't Boon of Safety the backup agent super well, so I will hold for ransom here. Untap the white source for the Boon of Safety to stop any removal that they may have. And Spar's Adjudicators is the draw. Alright, now I will play this land. If they force me to discard a card, I guess we'll discard Boon of Safety. But now we need that 5th mana for Adjudicators. Psychic Pickpocket. We cannot stop that with a Boon of Safety, so that is not ideal. Return any one of our creatures to our hand. They probably return Rigo, I assume, since Rigo is the most expensive creature to recast here. That Pickpocket's a 4/3, which is annoying, but we're going to be casting Adjudicators to make it so it can't attack or block here to stay aggressive. They're going to bounce Civic Gardener. All right, I'm pretty okay with that. I think we'll hold on to Boon of Safety here in case we draw another land. All right, we did not draw land. We'll just play Adjudicators. Shut off the Pickpocket. Draw a card, hit for 3. We're down to 3 life. We did hit a land, but it's not a white source for Boon of Safety, so I'm just going to hold on to it against Corrupt Court Officials. There's a Body Dropper. That's going to be really nice against our Hold for Ransom there. It's essentially a 3/3 here. Kaldaya Strongarm is the draw. That is really spicy on this board state. Probably put the counters on Rigo here because we still want to attack with a 1-power creature. So if we just put it on Rigo, we attack all. They have to block our 2 4-power creatures, and they take 3. And we still draw that card, and we have a Boon of Safety to use based on how they block. They are currently dead on board, so I'm not going to do anything unless they change that. Okay, dead on board it is. We are 1 and 2 now. Here we are in round 4. See if we can't turn things around, start getting some traction after our 0-2 start. We've got 1 win under the belt so far. See if we can't get some more. Another hand with some great mana and some nice beefy plays. 3 drops and 4 drops. Opponent starts with their own Triome. We'll follow up in suit. Crooked Custodian is the first play of the game, a 2-mana 3/2. Pretty threatening card, but a 2-mana 2/2 is big enough to trade into that, and we'll put a creature with a counter on it onto the board for our turn 3 Celestial Regulator. Could have gone for a Hold for Ransom instead, since that is a cheap creature, the kind of creature I like to hold for ransom. Well, we can hold on to it for now. Backup Agent is more than enough to deal with Custodian if they don't have removal of their own. They may use a trick to save Custodian here, but that would be okay. It would take some of their mana to do it, and it would still be a 1-for-1 trade. Woody Roastmaster is the next play. We can hold that for ransom or get our flyer down here. I think I'd like to get our flyer down. We have some pretty great ways to kill that Roastmaster permanently, mainly the Swooping Protector to block it out of nowhere and trade a shield counter into that 3/2 body. So next turn we're probably just going to go land, pass. Although we could go Kaldaya Strongarm, or we could just play a Voice of the Vermin and threaten to trade a shield counter for the Witty Roastmaster on board. That seems good enough to me. I'm probably just going to slam down a Voice of the Vermin, because it's going to disincentivize them from attacking and set up for a really high power board state if they can't deal with it. So we're going to quick draw Dagger in the end step to make that Roastmaster a 4/3. If they want to just jam in on us, that's pretty fine by me. We can just try to outrace them, especially with a Hold for Ransom coming up and Kaldaya Strongarm being a ton of damage for 4 mana. So Forge Boss is the play. Okay, so they have a Forge Boss and a Roastmaster. Both of them are 3 power. We'd probably rather ransom the Forge Boss away. I guess I'm going to be attacking pretty much every other turn here, so I feel like I might as well trade in this shield counter to just stop 4 damage, because this is my only opportunity to really use Voice of the Vermin's shield counter. The biggest problem with this would be if they have a Strangle Ooh, and that's really rough for our opponent. That worked out even better than I could have imagined, because they moved the dagger after the Roastmaster had taken damage, which means that we had dealt lethal to it because it had taken 2 damage, and then its toughness was reduced to 2 there. So I think I am on that hold for ransom plan on the Forge boss now. Attack with these and hit for 6. Go for a very big Call Die a Strong Arm attack next turn. Yeah, I could not have anticipated how good that Voice of the Vermin block was going to end up being for us. Definitely not a good time for our opponent, though. Wrecking Crew is a problem. Wrecking Crew is certainly a problem. A 4-5 reach. How do we attack into that? I suppose we use Strong Arm to make Voice of the Vermin even bigger so it can attack as a 6-6. I actually think I want to put the counters on the flyer and then just use the voice to make the regulator bigger and let them kill the voice if they want. Because we're hitting for 10 here and putting them to 2 life. I feel like this is worth it because we're drawing a card in the process as well, and we just permanently have a 4-5 flyer now. Not quite big enough to get into the Wrecking Crew, but Venom Connoisseur can get in. Maybe this was the wrong line. Yeah, I guess flying isn't that relevant. We probably should have just put the counters on the voice there. And then they go for the block on Regulator. We no longer have a flyer, but we still have a card that attacks as a 6-6 each turn. I guess either way, as long as they can't kill one of our creatures, they are dead on board. Just need to take 2 more damage here. Quick Draw Daggers moving to the Wrecking Crew. Tapped land is their land for turn. Girder Goons is the play. That's going to give them a tapped 2-2, not enough to survive, so they are going to scoop it up. We're now 2-2. Game 5 now, 2-2. Another hand with excellent mana, and the Regulator, Voice of the Vermin are 2 of our strongest cards. I'll keep the hand, grab a green source from Broker's Hideout. Goldhound turn 1 from our opponents. Do have a turn 2 play now, Illuminator Virtuoso. That would just trade for the Goldhound. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think I'll just play a tapped land here to set up for a turn 3 Regulator. Ooh, actually our Virtuoso is terrifying with Voice of the Vermin. I didn't even think of that. We might play Illuminator Virtuoso and a tapped land here, so we can turn 4 our Voice of the Vermin and have a Virtuoso down. Maybe so, maybe so. I kind of like that. I'm going to go for it. There's our Virtuoso down. Jetmir's Fixer from our opponent. Attacks in for 3. We'll be down to 17. Land for turn. And a Riveteer's Initiate. So Civic Gardener putting in work for them, letting them curve out into the 2-drop creatures on turn 3. It's always going to be an overwhelming start when the Gardener gets to pull off some work like that. Well, we can trade a shield counter into one of their creatures here with Voice of the Vermin. We do have a really terrifying counter attack, but I don't think it disincentivizes their attacks that much. Or apparently at all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We can attack back for 2 plus 8, 10. I'm going to take 7. I'm going to go down to 10 here. Next turn, we get to drop Celestial Regulator and hold for ransom. And if we have a counter on our board, that means Regulator, hold for ransom stops a lot of their potential attackers, blockers in the future. Capenna Express is actually weirdly really bad for us here because they can sacrifice the Goldhound to crew it, and they have a 6/6 blocker for a 4/4 double striker, which just trades off. Wow, that was a big wrench in the operation here. A massive bummer. They don't even have to tap the treasure, they just have to sacrifice it. So, well, we're definitely on Regulator here. I don't know if we need to Regulator hold for ransom or if we want to Regulator informants, but let's go for the attack first. We probably get to kill the Goldhound and the Capenna Express on this attack. That's probably what happens, is they crew Capenna Express, block here. Suppose if they don't and they're just going to try to counterattack us for lethal, we can make sure that doesn't happen by just, again, tapping stuff down, locking things down. All right, they're going to go for it. Take the 10. Fair enough. Can make them have far from lethal here thanks to our 2 cards. So we're going to want to deal with their best creatures. They can still crew a creature that has hold for ransom on it, so we don't want to hold for ransom the Jetmir's Fixer because they could buff it and crew the Capenna Express with it. So let's Regulator the Fixer. Then hold for ransom something else. Or drop Rafine's Informants. Would I rather hold something for ransom or have a 2/1 to chump block Capenna Express while our 2/3 blocks one of the 2/2s? Do like hold for ransom on Civic Gardener here. Because its ability to untap a creature when it attacks is pretty annoying. For us trying to counterattack with creatures on the ground. I guess it's going to be a lot easier to try to find lethal out of nowhere if we hold on to our hold for ransom. But we might just die here. If we don't die this turn, we're definitely dying in 2. I think we go for Rafine's Informant here and just try to find a way to sneak in lethal next turn. Swooping Protector, that's a lot of mana. I think we discard that. No, we probably discard the planes here, because a 2/2 is just going to be just as good as blocking as a 3/2. And we're definitely blocking with it, and we're blocking into a 2/2 creature, so yeah, just discard the land. Alright, I think this is where we're at here. This is a close one. It's going to be a scary one. They might kill us right now. Let's hope not. So on board, they can attack us with a 6/6 and a 2/2. That's if they have absolutely nothing in hand, because they get to crew the Capenna Express with their 1/1 Goldhound and one other creature. They could theoretically sacrifice the Goldhound to attack us with a 6/6 and 2/2/2s, so if they have 2 removal spells in their hand, we're dead, because they can attack us for 10 damage. Voice of the Vermin is the play, so they have a very good blocker because of that shield counter, and they're going to combat. They're just going to pass turn, play it safe here. It's going to give us a good shot to try to stabilize things out and slowly kill them with our flyers instead of anything else then. Because now we attack with Celestial Regulator in the sky to hit them for 2. Could hit them for 4 instead by attacking with Voice of the Vermin. How bold is it to do that? We attack with Voice of the Vermin and Celestial Regulator to hit them for 4 and put them to 6 life. Then we can play a Swooping Protector and have 3 total blockers trying to survive. Block there, block a 4-power creature, block a 2-power creature, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that's what we try to do, because that'll be lethal in 2 turns if we do that. Because we're hitting for a guaranteed 6 damage right here. Or I'm sorry, 4 damage right here, putting them to 6. Then we're playing a Swooping Protector, which is going to block and still be alive. We'll just lose a shield counter. I guess if they block with Goldhound and another creature, they can kill Voice of the Vermin here. That's the only way they stop us from getting lethal next turn. But then they lose the Goldhound. I didn't think of that. That's so good, actually. Luckily, our opponent didn't think of that either. If they thought of that, block with Goldhound, that first strike kills our shield counter, and then their next creature will finish off our thing. So I almost misplayed really bad there, but luckily our opponent did not see that line. They could still very well have lethal here, but I think our plan here is we swoop in the Swooping Protector, block their 3 biggest creatures to survive, then we get to crack back with a 4-power creature in the sky, a 2-power creature in the sky, thanks to Voice of the Vermin being able to trigger again on 1 more attack. That's our plan here. We'll see if it pans out for us. If they have a Strangle, it's not going to pan out. They're going to kill our Flyer, or they're going to kill our Voice of the Vermin. But if their plan is to try to find lethal on board, and they don't consider a potential flash blocker, then our plan may pan out. It may work out for us. So let's see. Looks like they probably don't have removal in hand, because they tapped out of their red mana. They could still have a prize fight, actually. That would be really bad. The fight removal spell with their 6/6 Capenna Express. Crewing the Capenna Express. Attacking with everybody here. Civic Gardener's going to untap a creature. Make Goldhound a 4/4 with that Menace. That's probably dead on board if we don't Swooping Protector, right? Because we go block, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Not quite dead on board without a Protector, but we're still 100%. We're playing Protector here. Okay. So we're blocking the Fixer because it can get bigger. We're blocking the 6/6 because it's really big. And then I suppose we are blocking Civic Gardener. Takes 6. If they have a combat trick here, there is a 1 mana +4/+4 combat trick here. We are dead to that. So we're at 4 life with lethal on board. They did get to untap their red source, which is concerning. 1 card left in their hand, though. And we've got Boon of Safety now. So even if they have an instant speed damage spell, that's 6 in the sky, with a shield counter to defend it, that's going to be game. That was a very close one, and that'll bring us to 3-2. Round 6 now. I'm not in love with this hand. We don't have any early game creatures to put on the board. We're not playing any creatures till turn 5 if we want one permanently. We also only have 2 of our 3 colors. I think I'm going to mulligan this one primarily because the lack of early game action. That's kind of what this deck is all about with its like 7 or 8 2-drops. So we'll mulligan that. We get Civic Gardener, Rego, and Workshop Warchief here. Our first time seeing our big Rhino Warrior boy. I think a definite keep here. And we need double green to hit Workshop Warchief, but we also need double white to hit Rego. So I think I drop the green here because we've got more time to hit a second green source for Warchief than we do to hit a second white source or a blue source for Rego. Yeah, we need double white and green to cast Rego on 3, and I think we really want to do that, so might be the wrong decision here because Warchief is real strong on 5, but see how it pans out for us. Unfortunately, Civic Gardener is not going to help us cast either of those. The Gardener is going to untap a land during combat, so by the time we're untapping a land with Gardener, we don't get to have mana floating, so it just helps you cast like 2 spells in 1 turn. Doesn't help you untap a land for a spell in hand. And there we go. Spara's Adjudicators is going to be that second green source that we need for Workshop Warchief. So now everything in the hand is super castable. Love that. Fantastic draw here. So our opponent's on Riveteers, green, red, and black. And they go for an Exhibition Magician, a 2/1 that gets a treasure token or a citizen token. Treasure token it is. Very valuable tokens, especially in the sealed format where you can get very splashy with your decks. Let's go ahead and attack with the Gardener and untap the Gardener. Gardener's not that good for us, so we'll just offer the trade here. I don't think it is worth dumping a combat trick this early just to beat a 2/1. But yeah, the Gardener isn't actually really helping our mana at all this game. And unfortunately, there was no way to use the Gardener to be able to hold up the 1 green mana for the Family and Rigo in the same turn. Alright, Illuminator Virtuoso with From the Family is Nutter Butters. So I'm just going to set that up. Here. I could attack with Rigo here and just use For the Family to kill the Freelance Muscle, but I would rather do that on blocks of the Virtuoso, because that will be insane if it happens. Call in a Professional. Damage can't be prevented this turn, so the shield counter is going to get removed and not prevent the damage, so Rigo's just going to die here. I'm going to allow that so I can eat up their Freelance Muscle and have a 2/2 double strike on board. I could save it with a For the Family, but my Illuminator Virtuoso is going to be like a 2/2 double striker bigger anyway, so it's not like Rigo's about to draw us any cards. Sticky Fingers was about the worst follow-up they could have had for us here. I'm still going to cash in For the Family, but we're not going to be able to block, so we'll have to just hold that for ransom, I guess. Well, luckily, they're running out of cards here because they are really just dumping their hand on us real quick. So we'll drop For the Family, see what we draw. Cleanup Crew, definitely discard that. It's 1,000,000 mana. Kaldia's Strongarm. Well, we were really looking for lands there. I'm glad I connived because we're digging closer to lands slowly but surely, but it is unfortunate not to hit them yet. So there's the hold for ransom on the Freelance Muscle. They can sacrifice it if they play a land here, but then they'll have to spend their whole turn just sacrificing that. A second Freelance Muscle, that's pretty deadly for us because we're still just stuck on mana here. Not how I'd like to end this sealed event, but it may be how it's ending. That Freelance Muscle attacks as an 8/8. Take 8. Glittermonger is the play. And a Mayhem Patrol, sure. Fourth mana is going to be too little too late here. They have the 7 mana to free their other Freelance Muscle, so those will both attack as an 8/8, and we have no removal in hand. We can only play 4 mana, so all we can do is blitz in a card that's not going to be around for blocks. That's just game. Attack with 2 8/8s, a 1/4, and a 1/2 Menace. Brutal one there. Really sad sealed event overall. I think our deck was pretty sweet all around. We just got really punished by some bad draws in our games that last round, keeping the 3-lander and just waiting way too long to hit the 4th mana, and then the early games where we needed the blue sources and did not get them. So sad stuff there. We did not get to cast our Workshop Warchief or our Vivian one time, both of which are super strong cards, some of our strongest cards. Overall, This deck was alright. It has really big bomb power, but we never really drew into it, because we never got to cast the War Chief and the Vivian, the biggest bombs. So I think that was one of the biggest upsides to the deck, and that didn't really get shown off. I don't love running this kind of deck in sealed. You like to run, ideally, a more mid-rangey deck with more hard removal, but we don't really have any hard removal in our sealed pool, so we had to kind of make do with the combat tricky stuff. I would say they didn't play super well. Refused to Yield for the family boon of safety. They didn't work mega well for us, but they were definitely better than just running even more creatures here. The ideal sealed pool or sealed deck here would be less creatures, more full-on removal spells in the middle here, maybe some better value plays, but I do think this is probably the right way to build the green-white-blue deck out of this particular sealed pool. I don't think we had much better choices running around in the sideboard, but we can take one last look. Maybe there's stuff here that looks specifically good. Nope, none of this is good removal. It's just more combat tricky kind of stuff and weaker creatures than the ones we're running. I guess we could make our curve a little higher. It was definitely a bit low for draft, but I did that on purpose, trying to get the best uses out of our combat tricks, and that worked kind of okay. But I could see dropping one of the 2-drops, getting another like 4-drop creature filler in here like Celebrity Fencer. When we look at the green, again, Prize Fight, our creatures are just not big. A ton of 2/2s and 2/3s, so Prize Fight is just not... doesn't look like a card that would work out super well in our green, and our only other green cards are Most Wanted, Social Climber, and Capenna Express, which are all pretty dang weak for this sealed pool. Yeah, I don't see any... I don't see any cards in green or white that are just like really obvious additions that we should have done. I think the biggest difference we could have done in this particular sealed pool, I don't think a Maestro's deck would have been that sweet. We didn't open any of the off-color filtering cards we could have ran in this deck. That's one of the things that can really help you out in a sealed pool that is important to keep an eye out. These mana fixture cards, because they mana fix for themselves, if you have one that's only off one color and you just need more late-game big impact cards, because those are the kind of cards you really want a lot of in sealed, you can slap them in here. So if we had a Rakish Revelers, the green-white-red mana fixer that comes down on 5, we would have played it. If we had a Shattered Seraph, the white-blue-black mana fixer that comes down on 7, we would have played that too. Those would have been some good ways to give us some more late game gas. But unfortunately, the Riveteers cards, the Maestros cards, they're just too far off color of white, blue, green to work that way. Yeah, I think the biggest thing that might have led to a better deck would have been just a heavier look into blue rather than a splash. Maybe we were supposed to just be full on blue, white, green, and just let our mana get pretty rough here. But I don't regret it too hard, because even with the green-white just splash blue deck, where we get to make sure our mana is like really easy, we still ended up with some mana issues. So I couldn't imagine, had we went for the Bant version like this, we probably would have just had more mana issues and maybe lost a little earlier. So I don't know. Not too much to be learned or gained from that one. Really average run, unfortunately, with some powerful rares. That will definitely just happen. I think we probably went the right way with the sealed pool. But if you had any particular directions that you saw in the sealed pool that I did not see, I would love to hear about it. Definitely trying to get some good sealed practice in before the arena open, because day 1 of that event is going to be sealed. So I'm going to be trying my best in these sealed events. If you see some particular way you think would be super good here, let me know in the comments below. Overall, my thoughts just sitting here all alone, thinking with my P-brain is just, I don't know, Bant seemed pretty good. I think the deck was pretty good. Just got a little bit of mana issues. Ended up with an average run with it. So that is going to end today's video. As always, if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, just leave a like, comment, and subscribe to let the YouTube algorithm know to send you some more of these videos in your recommended feeds. And I'll be back again soon with some more Streets of New Capenna Limited. We've got the arena open on the 14th and 15th, and the qualifier weekend on the 28th and 29th this month. So some big competitive events coming up. Pretty excited to stream those and do my best. So once again, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.